Hello and welcome. This is Dan Sanford from Writing at Bates and ARC. In this video, we're exploring how to use peer interaction to create active learning. We know that in order to learn, students must be active in their own processes for learning. In active learning environments, students do things with concepts. In the process, they recognize ways that their internal knowledge structures are lacking, identifying areas of dissonance or incoherence. They fill out their existing knowledge, relating new information to what they already know. One important form of active learning is collaborative learning, activities in which students work together towards a common goal. Learners who work together are exposed to diverse points of view. Within a group environment, it's never the case that everyone is in full agreement. Everyone brings their own point of view, their own approach, and their own assumptions. In articulating and defending their own positions to a group, learners have to synthesize their existing knowledge and beliefs. Considering the arguments of their peers, students apply their own knowledge structures to evaluating others' positions. Both of these are critical active learning tasks. When you make an active learning task a collaborative learning task, it adds in layers upon layers of active learning, requiring students to collect, justify, and argue for their own ideas, and to compare, analyze, and appraise the ideas of others. It also allows students to observe how other, more advanced learners approach problems. Collaborative learning techniques are simple, time-tested tools for educators to create structured, active, collaborative learning environments. They work well both as a way to pre-plan an interactive component in a class or to use improvisationally to create more interaction in moments where classroom energy has ebbed. There are many COLTs. These are a few especially helpful ones from Barkley, Major, and Cross 2014. Each offers different benefits, optimal for different goals and conditions. They can all be adapted for remote or distanced classes. Write, pair, share. Give students a short amount of time to independently reflect, writing about a topic in response to a prompt that you give them. For example, how have you experienced climate change in your life? Then pair students off, giving them time to share what they wrote with their partner. Finally, ask for volunteers to share their own or their partner's ideas with the larger group. Write, pair, share gives people an opportunity to reflect, and in the process to develop and vet ideas before sharing them with a group. It makes discussions more active and structures things in a way so that everyone engages with the material. For a group share, separate learners out into groups of 3 to 6. Within each group, have students work together for a set amount of time to arrive at an answer to a question or solution to a problem. Have groups work together to present their answers to the larger group, perhaps by creating a visual representation of it. Like in a write, pair, share, group share works well because students first have the chance to develop their ideas within their groups before sharing them out to the larger group. Group share works well when a large group is all working on the same problem. Within groups, students have to come to a consensus, which forces learners to evaluate their own positions. In a jigsaw, we again separate students out into groups of 3 to 6, but it's a bit more structured. In a first round, each group works on a different topic. For example, summarize the basic principles of economic theory outlined in this short reading. And like in group share, each group has to come to consensus within itself. Next, redistribute the group so that the new groups all have one member from each of the old groups. Give the groups a new prompt. For example, how should we solve income inequality in the US? And have each person in the group contribute based on the topic that they explored in the previous group. In jigsaw discussions, participants have the opportunity to develop a sense of ownership and expertise in a topic as they explored in the first group, and then teach it to a new group. It's a great tool for quickly exposing a group to a large number of concepts. Peer review. Place students in pairs or small groups to look at and comment on one another's work. Provide specific guidance to students on what they should be paying attention to, being as specific as possible. Have students take turns reading or reviewing their co-learners' work. Students should be prompted to both provide feedback for improvement to the author of the work and to consider ways that they can use the model provided to improve their own work. Peer review allows students to benefit from feedback from their peers. Just as importantly, being exposed to other students' ways of achieving the same task allows them to develop an internal model and to develop a critical eye that can then be applied to their own work. In a round robin, you appoint one student as a leader who poses an open-ended question or states a point of view. This student then leads the group in taking quick turns offering their own answer or point of view. Repeat until every student has served as a leader. Round-robin discussions ensure equitability and guarantee universal participation. They work well in ensuring that everyone takes part, that everyone has the chance to lead, and that everyone has multiple opportunities to have the floor while speaking. To set up a speed dating conversation, first have each student decide on an open-ended question that they'd like to ask others in the group. For example, do you think humans should use geoengineering to solve global warming? Then divide the group into 2 equal groups and have them sit in lines opposite one another, creating pairs of students sitting across from one another. Give students a few moments in their pairing to ask and answer one another's questions, and then have one row of students shift down one chair to create a new pairing, and do another round. Repeat until everyone has met with everyone else. Speed dating creates the opportunity to hear lots of different students' perspectives on a question or issue, providing new insights and highlighting the many ways that intelligent people can disagree. It also works well as an icebreaker for new groups. Practice in pairs. To implement practice in pairs, have students break out into groups of 2 to practice a skill or role play a scenario that was just discussed in the larger group. For example, take turns pretending to place your order at a Spanish-speaking restaurant using the subjunctive. Once everyone has had the chance to practice the new skill, a few minutes at most, return to the larger group. In practice in pairs, students move concepts from a theoretical to applied understanding by acting out an application of the concept. The practice routinizes the skill, making it faster and easier for them to do it again in the future. It's a good way to punctuate less active sessions with interaction and to insert collaboration when there's not a great deal of time to do so. Fishbowl. First, have students work in pairs or small groups to develop scenarios based on concepts the group has been discussing. For example, perform a short debate on how to live a good life, in which each of you represent a different moral philosopher. Then have everyone form a circle around a central area. Have the smaller group take turns acting out their scenario for the larger group. After each round, the larger group can weigh in with their observations, comments, and questions. In a fishbowl, students take turns performing the concept being learned in small groups, while the rest of the group watches. It encourages students to internalize concepts by applying them, while keeping the entire group engaged in the exercise. All these techniques can not only be adapted for remote classes, they can be really helpful in making remote classes more interactive. In synchronous courses, Zoom breakout rooms are a good way to break out into groups for activities like group share and Jigsaw. The main Zoom room then provides a place for students to share out from their groups. The chat window in Zoom also offers a very easy way for students to share in from pairs or groups. For example, you could do a round robin where the leader poses a question to the class using audio, and other students chime back in with their answers in the chat. These things are all possible in asynchronous classes as well. Here, the goal becomes to make the activity an assignment that's then documented with an in-course tool. For example, you could assign a group to engage in peer review and to include you in a Google Doc they're using to interact with one another, or have pairs of students set up times to practice in pairs on their own and then share out in a threaded Lyceum discussion on how that went. Colts can work very well in distanced classes. Fishbowl and round-robin discussions are inherently well suited to distanced classes because distancing and masks don't interfere in any way with the format. One person speaking at a time while others observe or contribute in turns. Colts in which people break out into pairs or groups for simultaneous activities can be trickier because the volume gets unwieldy with people speaking loudly enough to be heard while sitting 6 feet apart. Online tools can be a good solution here. Just because you're teaching in person doesn't mean you don't have the same remote toolkit available. Consider a 10-minute break to have students work in groups in a Jigsaw or group pair share, but instead of groups sitting together, they collaborate in a Google Doc. Or while running a speed dating or round robin session in an in-person session, the whole class could simultaneously be in a Zoom room with video and mic off, just using the chat function to offer input. Involving peer educators is a great way to make Colts work for your course. Collaborative learning is what peer tutoring is all about. PWSAs, PAL leaders, and tutors can all play a role in facilitating Colts in class. Peer educators can guide conversations in small groups, facilitate tech aspects, seed conversations with questions to get conversation going, or play other roles in making Colts work smoothly. And involving tutors in your course is always the most effective way to increase utilization of tutoring among the students in your course. Thank you for your time. If you'd like to talk more about how writing can foster collaborative learning, reach out at writing@bates.edu. If you're interested in having an ARC tutor involved with facilitating collaborative learning in your course, contact arc@bates.edu to arrange that.